And we're good to go. Last minute. Oh, man, it's been crazy. I just got back from something that will be answered in a further question. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to Cache the Line. I am so thirsty. I'm going to try to follow the comments, but I got so many questions to get through. I'm going to try to do the best that I can and rush through this because we got half an hour. I don't want, well, not even half an hour, now 20 minutes. So first of all, shout outs, Geocache Talk Network. If you haven't, that's Geocache Talk, the podcast. You got to tune into them on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern. They talk about a whole bunch of geocaching topics. And Geocache Talk Network has a few people. We've got Geocaching Janji, who is a blogger. We've got myself. We've got Sodak Zach, who's the man at the cache. He'll be out there getting caches during the podcast. And then we got Geocaching Katie. And of course, we've got the two illustrious hosts themselves. So, and now, yes, can't forget them behind the cache. He has just joined the Geocache Talk Network, and he does awesome documentaries about geocaches and the people who create them. So don't forget to tune in and watch their videos, subscribe to them. I'll drop some links in the description so you can get to them later. There's also the Geocache Talk Network, which I'm also, not the Geocache Talk Network, the Geocaching Network on YouTube, the GCNW. Tons of geocaching vloggers who are out there sharing their experiences and having fun and hoping that you will come along and enjoy the ride with them. So check out the Geocaching Network on YouTube. There's a channel specifically for that, and all of the channels of that network are also listed. So go check them out. There's a little bit of something for everybody. What else we got? Oh yeah, so Janji, Geocaching Janji, she is also part of the Geocaching Guild, which is a bunch of bloggers. So we've got vloggers for video and bloggers for text. If you like reading, that blogger is for you. And so they've got Geocacher Ken and a couple other bloggers as well. So check them out. They're on Facebook, the Geocaching Guild. I believe it's facebook.com/the Geocaching Guild. And they share all their blogs there. Special thanks to Cache's Corner Store, who has donated the t-shirt as one of the prizes. I don't have one with me. I would love to have one, but I haven't got one yet. He will, I'm sure, be sending directly to the winner. So when that is announced, that you'll get it from him. And I will also send a few other things with the two prizes that are going out tonight. Also, IB Geocaching. Pete has been impeccable at helping us vloggers. He's like the button guy. He makes all the collectible buttons. Like they're like all the rage in North America, but he does overseas as well. And as many as you can get, collect them, because you can fill your backpack with them. You can put them on your jacket and shirt. You can put them on your hat. You know, people walk around with them, and it's fun to point them out when you're at large events and whatnot. So thank you, Pete from IB Geocaching. And of course, the social media gurus. There's Cache Advance and Landsharks are doing so much for the community. Cache Advance has their monthly geocaching challenge with geocaching vlogger, and they've got their cache. What was it called? Brain, there's so many stuff going through my head right now. The monthly subscription box. It's totally gone from my head. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So moving on, because I got to go quickly. Quick update. Those adventure vials, those 5 adventure vials that I launched from Ben Nevis, 3 of them have moved on, but 2 of them are still unclaimed from the event. So I'm hoping that whoever has them will go and pick them up and help them move along, because I don't want to lose them right away. Have you ever launched a trackable and it's just kind of dead in the water, like it disappears at the first location? I hope not. So if I gave you one at those events, please pick it up and retrieve it and move it along. If not, I will be having to launch 2 more from somewhere to get to the same people. I said that would happen, so it's going to happen. Okay, so interesting stats from the comments. The one prize for posting comments for the highest elevation cache. The person who answered with the highest elevation altitude was Gary Lee with 3,414 meters in Arizona at GC1WE50. You can look that up if you want. I think some of these are kind of parking grabs. What I find with the US is on like that western plain, it's so high. The lowest of the people who answered was The Force Awakens with 89 meters. That's the highest elevation cache they have found in their entire career. Wow. But they are based in Florida. But we had some comments from US, Canada, Austria, Norway was in there, England. So a good variety of locations. They can be in the weirdest places. Okay, moving on to the first question, because I've got to move fast. Okay. GeoPaul. Okay, this is a very common question. A lot of people have asked this question. What has geocaching taught you? What you wish you knew? What do you wish you knew when you were younger before geocaching? I've been doing this for 10 years now, and so it's a long time. You like pick up a whole lot of stuff. You learn a lot of things, but I don't know. I'd probably, if I were to tell myself when I was younger something, I would say, get off the couch, get off the computer, go find a geocache. No, that's Moto Joe. He's already done that. Oh, no, okay. There is a world outside every darkened door where blues won't haunt anymore. The brave are free and the lovers soar. Come, ride with me to... No, that's Life is a Highway. No, but really, nature is totally underrated. It's fantastic, and the tech is getting better. And there's really nothing like a healthy outdoors adventure, and it's accessibly within reach to like anybody. So, I would say to my younger self, get out there quick. Start geocaching earlier. All you need is a GPS device and a free account on geocaching.com, and the world opens up. And then get ready to be awed and wowed and challenged and humbled. Like, if you love nature, if you discover what's out there in nature, you're going to be humbled. I've been humbled just by getting out to some of these places that I'd never imagined I would actually set foot on, or didn't even know it was out there. And it just opens your eyes to a world out there. Okay, what do we got next? This is the very common one. How did you get into geocaching? I think there was Donovan Durr, or Cache the Wind, and Mikey, and Rebecca Busby, and Pirate, all asked the same question. So to try to make this short, because we got 15 minutes now, before I did geocaching, there was this thing called alternate reality games, not augmented reality games, alternate reality games. And they were basically games and or marketing that did a whole lot of storytelling, but using the real world as a platform. So this is kind of like when the internet was just starting out, and they would use websites and real world events, mainly. Like, websites were one thing, but they would get you involved with physical, tangible objects. They'd mail things out to people. They would hold events where maybe only a couple of people could participate, but you'd rely on viral marketing. So they would take pictures, they would document, they would video and share with the rest of the community elsewhere in the world. And so this kind of viral marketing storytelling using the real world was coined as alternate reality games. And you kind of unravel the story in real time, and you could interact with characters who are obviously actors, but they would play characters in real time as well. So there'd be kind of a skeleton story that the creators, the puppet masters, would have to work from. And as they interacted with community, unraveling the story, it would become this one-time experience. And these things were like super popular back in the early 2000s. And so the thing that got me was there was an alternate reality game for Halo called I Love Bees, where they told kind of a side story that led into the launch of Halo 2. You can Google that for tons of information. But at that point, I was just starting to set up some websites. And so I was kind of really into alternate reality games. And that's desk stuff. You're like, if I'm not out there doing something with those events, then I'm organizing information and doing wikis and everything. And so I was doing that. And then somebody said, I picked up the iPhone in 2009, and it was an iPhone 3GS. And somebody said, or I asked, what's a good app? What's a good game? What should I get? And somebody said, you should try out this geocaching app. So I was like, okay, I'll find this geocaching. Okay, I'll download it and check it out. And, it didn't do too much. But that weekend was a long weekend. And I headed up to the Bruce Peninsula, up to Tobermory. And if you had watched my recent 10-year video where I went up to the Bruce Peninsula, the ghost ship geocaching video, that was where I found the first geocache. I decided to open the app and like, okay, there's one right around here. So, okay, let's try to find it. And I spent so much time trying to find just a film can in the rocks. So simple now, but back then it was like, it was crazy to imagine that. And it took forever to find. So the one thing that I really found fascinating when I started geocaching was when I learned about the A.M.A cache, because that was an alternate reality game. I hadn't heard about it, but the A.M.A caches were a partnership between Groundspeak and the studio behind the movie Planet of the Apes, and they decided to basically create this alternate reality game where a story was unraveling, and part of the real world component was physical geocaches placed around the world. And this was before I started geocaching. So when I learned about this, I was like, oh man, there's only 2 left, Seattle and Brazil. I'm like, oh, I want to find them. But then when I actually had the chance to, Seattle was archived, which only left Brazil. And now Seattle is back after I was there. So next year, A.M.A cache, woohoo! Okay, what was the next one? Do you have a job that requires driving around a lot, or just have many geocaches in your area? I don't have a job that requires driving around a lot. I'm just a programmer, just sitting here programming the internet. But there are a lot of caches in this area. I'm in kind of the central point of the arrowhead of Southern Ontario, and here there's a thriving community of geocachers. And so and it's a great mix of trails and forest and parks and rivers and water and people who love geocaching. So there's like a super crazy wide variety of geocaches to find here. And I highly recommend, if you're ever passing through, maybe going from Detroit to Buffalo, cross the border, come into Canada, get some caches in Southern Ontario, because it's awesome, and then head through. So Southern Ontario, yes, there's tons. I don't have a job that drives, but do like to travel. What do we have next? We got Rebecca Busby. Why did you decide to become a caching vlogger? That is also a good question. And what could I say? So about a year before I started vlogging, I went to Iceland. So I took one of those cheap flights they were trying to advertise to get people to go to Iceland and over to Europe. And so I had this awesome 4-day trip in Iceland. And I was doing more photos back then, but I took a few short video clips because it was just so amazing, so fantastic. The sights and this, like, photos couldn't do it enough justice. So I had to take video clips. So I was using the phone and I was just grabbing some short video clips. And after that trip, I got and put those clips together and made just a few really short videos, like a couple of minutes long, of about, I think, 5 different locations that I was at that I thought would be really cool to show. And so I had my YouTube account at that point, and I decided, okay, I'm going to make a separate channel just to put up maybe some geocaching stuff. And that was a year before I started the vlogging. So those went up and I shared those around a bit. And then a year later, it just seemed like I'd watched a few more vloggers and some videos and thought, you know what, there's some fun stuff that I should put together. I've taken some other videos, let's kind of whip them together. There was a bushwhacker, a 5-5 hike that I did that I took a whole bunch of video clips, and which I put up, I got it in the description as well, a video collage of that hike, which was even a few more years earlier. So I'm like, you know what, there's some good video stuff here to share. So I decided, okay, I'll start a channel and name it and start putting up videos. The rest is history. It's just so fun to put together these videos and share these experiences. So yeah, I wanted to share the inspiration, the awe and the wonder and all the stuff that's out there. Part of the inspiration for the channel was my mother. So one of the things that I like to do is make these videos in a way that would be something that my mother or both of my parents would enjoy watching. There is a history behind that inspiration, there's a video which I'll link to in the description as well, and that explains a bit of the backstory behind the initial name of the channel and my mother as inspiration. But basically, that means I want to create and share positive, family-friendly, uplifting, healthy content, and just to show what geocaching can be, the fun, the enjoyment, the social aspect as well, because so many awesome people have met through this, and it's so worthwhile taking up the hobby, and just want to share. That's pretty much it. Oh wait, I missed one. I'll quickly add it in here. There's one that just came in. Some people sent in some late questions. So how about this one? Hackliva said, how the ploopdiwhomp do you find time to edit? She didn't say ploopdiwhomp. How do you find time to edit? I don't know. I work full time, and I geocache. I think geocaching is primarily on the weekends. Sometimes it'll be occasionally during the week, but I also have other things that I do weeknights, so I try to get 2 to 4 hours a night doing video stuff, but I'm also watching network videos like other geocachers on YouTube and catching up on social media. It's a whole lot of stuff to do. So I want to know how people like Joshua get the time to do their video editing, because and the people who, especially the daily vlogs, when I was doing daily vlogs last year for Christmas, that was just crazy intense. I had to knock out a whole bunch of other daily plans just to have time to record and edit to get out at a daily rate, and that's just ridiculous. So I'm trying to get enough to get one video a week. That's my goal, so I'm hoping to do that. Okay, so what do we have next? We have, where do we leave off? What device do you use to geocache? From Suk-I. So I mentioned before, I started in 2009 with the iPhone. That was the 3GS. I've never used a dedicated GPS device. I started off with 3GS, and every 2 years I upgraded. So it was a 3GS to a 4S to a 5S Plus, the 6S Plus, and the 8 Plus. I think those are the ones. So basically full generation every 2 years upgraded, and it's always been iPhone. So if we ever get into a debate about whether a GPS or an iPhone is sufficient for geocaching, I will always say a smartphone is plenty sufficient for geocaching. The GPS device dedicated should, I would hope, always do a better job at GPS. Smartphone is an all-in-one device, so it's going to be dedicated to a whole bunch of stuff, and the GPS quality of smartphones, at least more recent brands and models, is plenty sufficient. Obviously, there's a user factor. If you don't know how to use it well, then you might not get good accurate coordinates, but that's the same with the GPS device as well. So maybe different learning curves and whatnot, but strictly speaking, smartphones are fine. Just learn how to use it optimally, the device that you like to use. Same with the apps. Okay, next up, WVU22. What items do you carry or wear that are strictly for your safety while geocaching? Not much. My phone, because you can use that for emergency calls and emergency contacts. Because mostly my geocaching is in populated, safe areas, just parks and trails and whatnot, or I'm with large groups. But probably if I'm hiking, there'd be a walking stick, maybe a knife. Probably should look into taking a first aid kit, because that would be healthier and that would be safer. But yeah, I don't have that. Maybe other people do when we go on group hikes. Have lived through some ouches. There was one time I was going through some tall grass, and it hid a very, I guess it was deeply embedded cut rebar pole pipe thing, but it was hidden by the grass. So I'm walking along, and it literally scraped a gash just below my knee, and it just came out of nowhere. And I still have the scar, and it bled profusely. It's like thin skin, but that area just bleeds so much. But But I mean, that's fine, but that's a war wound. It happens. I had another friend who we were caching, kind of night caching, and we were around a tree looking for a cache, and he was looking down, he looked up, and he got a stick right up close to the trunk, right next to his eye, and it just tore a rip in his eye. And I was maybe 10 meters away, and he yelled out, and I thought like he broke a limb or something. He was in so much pain. But Roy, we will not show the scar. But he was okay. But it just goes to show that having a first aid kit is a good idea. Just got to remember to do it. What else did I have with that one? Oh yeah, so if you're going on water, I mean, there's legal stuff for your kayak or canoe. You got to have a bucket, the life jacket, whistle, rope. You just know what your requirements are for your area. Climbing, look down, and I don't really have equipment for climbing. It'd be nice. I would love to have equipment for climbing, but no. Otherwise, long distance hiking, water, food. I try to gauge how long you're going to be away from your vehicle, or if you go into a place that you don't have good cell reception, then understand how much battery you might need, that sort of thing. But generally speaking, casual caching. I try not to get into dangerous places or tasks where I know I'm going to have safety gear or equipment, unless I'm planning heavily ahead of time, and typically with other people. Ideally, if it's something I've never done before, with somebody else who has the experience. Always be safe, always be conscious about that kind of thing. You never want to do something that you're uncertain of or put yourself in unnecessary danger. Disclaimer. Okay. Next, we're going to go past 9 o'clock. It's going to go into U.S. geocaching. WVU, Tutu, and Sports Babe have both asked, what sort of bags do you carry your items in? Do you have different bags for in and out of the city? I do have a couple different bags, and do I have them here? Well, I mean, there's this bag. This is beauty. I like this bag. This is kind of my general geocaching tote that I just put everything in. It's just one. I mean, it's just a one pack. It doesn't have little pockets or anything to help sort and organize. So I've got like bags inside the bag that separate things like swag and maintenance tools and pens and branded signature items, things like that. So it's just open it up and then pull out the right bag and make use of it. But that's intended to be lightweight. So maybe short hikes in parks and trails. But then I've got the nice big Army surplus bag. Added some reflectors on here for night hikes and stuff. But it's got all these nice heavy duty little pockets all over the place. This is like super beneficial because you can put tons of stuff in here. I've even got my smidge from Scotland. If you ever need to get those midges off you, I guess it's strong enough for mosquitoes too. But highly recommended, a good, tough, heavy duty backpack with lots of pockets to help organize, because this comes in handy for longer hikes and whatnot. And one of the things that I realized is a lot earlier on, if you buy a cheap backpack and you're hiking with it and you're doing geocaching, you're climbing through those trees and bushwhacking, it gets torn to shreds. It does not last. So it's worthwhile paying a little more for a good outdoorsy kind of backpack. What else is there? Yeah, okay, so next up, GeoScouter117. Ever have strange dreams about geocaching, like a never-ending log sheet or disappearing FTF signature? Not that I remember. Maybe subconsciously. Maybe subconscious dreams are teaching me things, and I don't know. Nothing has come to mind. I'm sure I have, but obviously it hasn't been memorable. Maybe I'll come back to that one if something comes to mind. Andrew Lashuk, I think that's how you say it. What do you think will happen to AR caches? I think I just saw somebody posting in the forum that they're 6 months behind responding. So I don't know. I can tell you what I would like to see happen. What I'd like to see happen is I would love for HQ to adopt AR technology and add it to the Adventure Labs app. If I've said anything before, I don't like that name Labs, but if they can put AR into their Adventure Labs, then that would add another layer of interactivity and technology and fun, maybe a little more work and whatnot, but options to have a more fun location-based style experience. I think they just need to incorporate it somehow, even with, I don't want to say putting AR into the geocaching app, but I mean, if you've got an app with a camera, then why not incorporate some AR into it? I hope they do. I think that it's another one of those types of caches that has huge flexibility. It can be really cheap and simple, like AR caches where you go to a location and put your phone up and you see a picture of the coordinates. That's happened I don't know how many times, versus really well done AR caches that are more interactive and you have 3D objects. Like, it's just, it has so much flexibility. It has a lot of potential. People just need to make use of that potential, and Groundspeak needs to adopt it. Res 2100, do you have any plans to get 4.5 pound walleye? GCDFB. So a number of years ago, Stormgren X was his username. He posted in the forums that he was going to go find, I think at the time it was the oldest unfound cache in the world or North America or something like that. And so this cache is way out in the wilderness in northern Ontario, and nobody had found it. It was placed, I think it was 2001, I think it was placed in. And so he was planning to go get it with a friend of his. And it was a week, I think it was a full week-long canoe and camping trip to get to the cache. But he updated the forums to say that he had a satellite tracker, so he set it up so that anybody who wanted to could watch their progress as they went along the river. You could see where they were, and it was really cool to watch that play out live, that camping trip play out live. And they did find it, but it is a super 5 terrain, like a backcountry outdoors cache, and it's only been found by those two, Stormgren and his friend. I can't remember his name. I've got I created a little bit of a set of where am I going here? Let me put this up here. There we go. Okay, so there's this URL. So if you go to there, I've got a few posts back when I was doing Tumblr that showed some pictures, and I got to meet him at a local event and chat with him for a bit. But there's links there to his website that has photos, his log, a recounting of his experience, all that stuff. It's worth checking out, I think. And if Res 2100, if anybody decides to do that, it's going to be a big excursion. It would be fun to do, but I think, yeah, if we had a large enough group and say we planned a nice big event. So Res 2100, I think a year before I started geocaching, planned an event at the highest point in Ontario at Ishpetina Ridge. And I would have loved to go to that, but it was also a long hike, and I don't think there was paddling involved, but it was a big trip to get to this 5-5 event at Ishpetina Ridge. So if he wants to organize an event to maybe near 4.5 pound walleye, and then everybody who wants to go to that event, we can get together and organize how to get there and have that really fun excursion, I'd be up for it. Or if we get a helicopter, woohoo, that would be awesome. Maybe this month for the September Geo Challenge. But so, yeah, don't have any plans right now, but I would go for it, I think. It'd be a big one. Okay, next up, Snyder 26. What is the most memorable geocaching you've done to date? Oh my. I think it's hard to rate them because they're all different contexts and different experiences, but I'd probably have to say put number one as Christner Tinder. So from that Iceland trip, Christner Tinder is I can't remember what the DT was, but the terrain I think was a 4.5 terrain, and it's at the top of a mountain. It's one of their national parks, but it's basically an all-day hike round trip, and that was the first mountain climb that I ever done, and it was solo, mainly because you're safe in Iceland for wildlife, so you don't have to worry about that. You basically just have to watch for weather, inclement weather, good and bad, and whatnot. And that day when I got there, it was perfect weather. There was no forecast for anything dangerous. All of the maps were showing basically green for the entire day. So I set out early morning for an all-day hike, and this one is like, it's like a big boot, kind of the shape of it. So you start out at the base of the boot and you work your way up this long, slow incline, and then you get to the mountain, and it's maybe I think it's a kilometer or two where it just suddenly goes up to 45 degrees and whatnot. You there's a trail that goes most of the way, and then you end up having to follow stakes in the ground. So you're going from stake to stake. There's no trail. And basically, I set up a website to plot out my progress with photos and describe that whole experience, which was absolutely amazing. And it got to the point, again, this is the first time I'd done a climb like that long, and it got to the point where the slope got tedious enough that I was taking 5 steps, had to take a breath, had to stop and rest, and then 4 steps and stop and rest, and then 3, and then 2, and it got to the point where I literally felt like I was hitting a wall. It was hard enough just to take one more step, because this was November, so there was snow and rocks and shale underneath all the snow, and it's like you're walking along an angle, you're zigzagging a little bit to keep going, but it came to a point where it felt like I couldn't go any farther. And the thing that I kept telling myself was, I have all day, so there's no rush, and every step is a step closer, and if I turn back now, I'm going to hate the fact that I was so close and I didn't go all the way. And so I just kept inching along step by step, and it slowly teetered out a bit, because there's this part in the trail where they call it the saddle. So you come up the slope, and then it dips a little bit as you go from one peak to the next one. And that saddle was so refreshing. So I came over and then went to the saddle, and then it was just up the rest of the way to the peak of Christenatinder. And when I got there, it was literally a mountaintop experience. And I will never forget that. And the cache was somewhere up there. The owner of the cache, love her to hate it, the owner of the cache said that in the winter it could be hard to find, or it might be frozen in place. So if you get there and you get to the radio relay station, I think it was, there's a box on the side with like a guest book and whatnot. And so I got there and I couldn't open the box. It was frozen. And after trying, a few minutes later, I realized that there was blood, because it was so cold up there. I didn't feel that I'd scratched myself on the corner while I was trying to get the thing open. So another reason to have a good first aid kit. But that whole thing, I didn't even realize that the peak was a little further on and just a little bit higher. I was so caught up in the moment of making it to the top that I forgot that it was a little longer, but it was so close to the actual peak that it's insignificant. And the views from there were just fantastic. Coming down was super fun because most of it is just on an angle and snow with like loose shale underneath, and so you can pretty much just sit down, put your hands on your side and your feet up front, and just slide down. So it took about half as long to get back down to the main part. Only problem is, at that point, if you're coming down the side, there's also cliffs, because it goes down off the side into a glacier. So you do have to have a little bit of control as you come down the side and come to a stop. You don't want to fall off the cliff. But yeah, so that one, I can add the link to that too. That is at Iceland.thebruce.net. I'll just add that. Iceland.thebruce. Is that it? No, that's not it. It is gc.thebruce.net/Iceland. So that is the URL of my blog for the entire trip, and one of those pages is the Kristen or Tinder day. So if you want to check it out, go for that. I would say that that would be my number one most memorable geocaching experience. The next day, that trip was also over my birthday, so the next day I managed to find a very, very private, small enough hot pot, so like a geothermal water pool, basically, and people go there to soak and swim. And this was like 6-7 a.m., pitch black, flat land everywhere, nobody around, no lights, no vehicles, and I could just plop in, sit back, and enjoy the steam rising. The temperature was 42, I think, Celsius, so hot, and there was little bits of snow coming down. It was the perfect birthday. So that combination, Iceland, was I would say the top memorable geocaching adventure. I mean, other ones are very close behind. Lingham Lake was the Bushwhacker video, which I mentioned earlier. That was an all-day hike that I've done twice now in the winter for a 5.5 cache. Awesome time. In a few years after I started caching, I went to Nevada with 3 other friends and did the ET Highway. That was 2,400 caches in 3 days. That was a crazy adventure. That's something that you just kind of do once, because you all have to be on the same mental plane to do something like that, or otherwise you're going to be, clashing. Somebody wants to go home, you're done. I had fun going for Mingo, so that's another one that was huge. I've got a video coming up for that because I did something with Mingo I don't think anybody else has ever done. So coming soon. Next up, Connoisseur Sunset. There was the Caching Connoisseur series. There was one cache that I found which completely blew me away. It was a DNF. I said I found it. It was a DNF, but I have a video for that. It's also in my highlight playlist, where I'm just walking through the forest towards it, and it's quiet, it's serene, it's in the Bruce Peninsula, and all I see is white. Like literally in the video, that's what I saw. I walked towards the light because it's the coast of Lake Huron, and come out onto the shore, and it's just completely calm, serene. The sunset is right on the horizon, and it's just, the entire sky was filled purple, orange, and red, and it was just unbelievable. I did not expect that at all. I turned to the camera, and it looked like I was getting emotional, and I was. Like, it was just, it came out of nowhere, literally. That was a huge experience. See, these are all different types of experiences, right? It's really hard to rate them for number one overall when everything is a number one for different reasons. Because then there was also the Hidden Creatures promotion, which had a huge blast with that, because, I mean, that was just awarding number of caches you find, but it was well themed. It had a great kind of a story to it. And so I had fun with it. And I went out to find themed caches for each of the creatures that I was currently working towards. And so that kind of prompted me to create the Hidden Creatures video series, which I know is not complete yet. It's all sitting in their folders. I'm going to get to it eventually. But that was another different kind of memorable fun, is when they infuse the hobby, the sport of geocaching, with a storytelling, like something else, another layer to enjoy. And so Hidden Creatures right up there. And then, so yeah, like all these souvenir promotions, you could look at them like, oh, you're just doing stuff to get a souvenir, or you can look at them like opportunities to enjoy the hobby more. Do something that's related to the theme. I don't know, take pictures, take video, do something, but enjoy it. Why make it something that is going to take away your enjoyment of the hobby? Do something and take it to another level. Even like what Podcaster, the podcast couple did, Sunny and Sandy, they took that 7-day streak week souvenir challenge and decided to take one more level and do a different cache type every day for 7 days. So that's 7 cache types over a week. And they challenged us, everybody, the community, to do that challenge. And so it's like, you start off, but do something a little more just to have a little more fun. Why not? Anyway, okay, moving on. Got to move on. A.M.A, next one. Where do we go? Okay, so it's Cyber Husky. I don't think I've seen anything about how you picked your geocaching name, the Bruce Zero. Yeah, so I have a video that describes how the initial name of the channel, Chasing the Iron Man, came to be, and the switch over to Cache the Line. But yeah, I don't really say much about the Bruce Zero, and I get that question a lot. So, in short, I guess you could say when I first, it's the years and years ago, before I started geocaching, back in the late 90s, I joined a youth group, and before they could remember my name, I always say it that way, but they thought I looked like a Bruce because I still had some facial hair and stuff. So they said, "You look like a Bruce. We'll call you Bruce." And so they called me Bruce, and they kept calling me Bruce, and it became a nickname, Bruce. So they call me Bruce, and I turn and I look. And to this day, if somebody calls Bruce, I will turn and I will look. It's like a second name. So Bruce this, Bruce that. I'm the Bruce. But I mean, you could relate it. A lot of people. I mean, I don't mind the associations with things like the Bruce Peninsula. The other main reason I decided to take the Bruce is because if you know Braveheart, the movie about William Wallace, the Scottish hero of the past, one of the characters there is Robert the Bruce, who ended up king, and I actually felt I associated more to than William Wallace. So I really liked Robert the Bruce, and so with this Bruce thing, I was like, you know what? Nobody starts a name with the something, the name. So I was like, oh yeah, let's try the Bruce. So I went with the Bruce. Well, the problem is occasionally there is the Bruce already taken. So you could either stick a whole bunch of numbers on the end, or I just thought, why not just stick a zero? Nobody ever takes zero. So every time the Bruce was taken, the Bruce Zero was never taken. So I just kind of went with the default for everywhere, just the Bruce Zero. Yeah, nothing special. It's not really Bruce Willis. It could be Bruce Lee. I like Monty Python's Bruce's. Hey, Bruce, this is Bruce. Have you met Bruce? Bruce, this is Bruce. I'm Bruce. Yeah, it's all that stuff. Another fun connection. But yeah, primarily Robert the Bruce. Okay, Lori, Katie Reed and Lori563. What advice would you give geocaches when trying to solve mystery or puzzle caches? That is a good question. That's something that everybody wants to know. Sometimes I want to know too. So again, I came from that alternate reality game background, and I said it's like storytelling and you're unraveling a story over time. It's also a whole lot of puzzling. So you're kind of solving mysteries. So there could be puzzles involved, blatant puzzles, or even just solving a mystery as part of a puzzle. So with that background, I kind of built up some it built up the ability to look for patterns, like pattern matching. So at least when I approach a puzzle, if there is a clear pattern, then I vastly prefer that kind of pattern. So I would highly recommend a good way to start is when you're looking at a puzzle, try to spot a pattern, because that will usually lead you to some next step. Not all puzzles are like that though. So I'd say look for some puzzle books. There's one that's been around for a while now called How to Puzzle Cache. It seems to be pretty popular. I'll add the link to that one, but you can find it easily with this link. Let me get this started at here. I'll add it to the description as well. So if you go to that URL, it'll take you to that book on Amazon.com. You can check that out. It's apparently very popular. I haven't read it yet, but I would love to have it in my repertoire. It'll go over a whole bunch of 101 style tips for puzzling. I also have, so from that alternate reality game background, I also have one that is called a hub. I'll add this here at quick ways to get to it. So cacheline.net/puzzle hub. It's a web page with loads of links to external websites for information, descriptions, solvers, helpers. It's got some inline converter tools as well. I mean, there's a whole bunch of websites that have that sort of thing, especially now with geocaching being so popular. Geocachers Toolbox, I think, is a popular one. Geocachers Toolbox, or Geocaching Toolbox. I think that's what it is. Another good website with loads of tools. So really, if you Google puzzle solving tools, you'll find tons of websites. Rumkin.com is a great one for ciphers. There's decode.fr. They have an English translation as well. They've got a whole bunch of converters and stuff. For patrons, I've also set up I've started, I still have to add more, but I've started a series called Puzzling 101, which I'm slowly going to be adding more like the basics. Really, like the first article that I have right now is about how to convert base numbers. So understand the concept of base 10 or decimal, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 to 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 to 100, and how to convert between that and say things like binary or hexadecimal. A lot of times we can talk about it, but you might not understand how or why that works. So I do plan to add more articles to that Puzzling 101 series for patrons, where we dig into more of that conceptual idea to try to grasp that, because it's like teach a person to fish, however that phrase goes. It's like feed a man a fish versus teach a man to fish sort of thing. You can give people tools to do everything, or you can help people understand how and why those tools work. And the latter, I think, is a higher learning curve, but it helps you in the future to grasp more puzzles. And personally, I like to try to do that as well. I don't just like to get an answer for a puzzle. I like to understand why. So if you ever need help with puzzles and you ask me, I'll most likely be trying to help you through understanding the steps, presuming I understand the puzzle myself. Okay. Next. We're going along. So, okay. So, Jen Abel, what's the best way to set out a series of caches? I would say have a theme. Personally, like, this is my own opinion. I love series when they engage you more, when there's things that you want to do. So, or that bind things together. Like, you could have a power trail with just random caches, but the only fun about that is if you enjoy a long hike to get a whole bunch of +1 smileys. Whereas if you've got, say, a series in a forest on a bunch of trails, and there is a theme amongst them, whether it's like the container itself is slightly different, like you're doing animals or something like that, or if say you could do a geo art where you've got the puzzle posted coordinates of the caches on the map that make the shape of something interesting or fun or neat, like flags or animal shapes or whatnot, and solve those puzzles. And they could end up, whether it's on a power trail or spread around the region, the final locations. There's something more than just go there and find the cache for a smiley. I would say get that extra layer, so you've got that extra experience where maybe you're telling a story. It could be a sequential series. So maybe each cache in the series adds a bit to the story, and then you go from one to the end and you unravel the story. Who knows? That extra layer is what I would suggest is something that makes a series stand out from just a bunch of caches that all share the same name. So I would recommend that. Otherwise, beyond that, same thing as when you're putting out caches. Just make sure you've got good coordinates, and that if you do puzzles, that it's solvable, and people have fun. But I would recommend that for a series. As a cache owner from Skatey Rocks, what do you do when you find a geocacher has not found the actual geocache? Hey, reviewers, you watching? Assuming that they logged the cache, I would say it depends on the intended experience. Like, for example, if it's a puzzle, if they solved the puzzle wrong and they found something that's not the cache and signed that, then they didn't find the cache. especially if they didn't solve the puzzle right, they don't have the answer. They could have found anything and signed it. So as a cache owner, it's basically your responsibility to ensure that what people find is the cache. So yeah, if I knew that they didn't find it and I didn't have to check the log sheet, then I would probably send a message to the user saying, I have to delete your log. Here's why. If there is an issue, then let me know. Or if you really feel it's wrong, you can take it to appeals and have reinstated, that sort of thing. But say if the cache is about a location, like you place a cache because you want somebody to go to that location, and somebody finds, say, a throwdown instead of the cache that I placed, then I wouldn't delete the logs of people who found it because it's essentially in the same place. But if my cache was still there, I would obviously go there, remove the throwdown, and let people know that, I'd probably post them in the maintenance notes saying somebody put a throwdown here. So that was not the cache. But if I'd probably announce to the people who found the wrong one saying, if you found the old one and you want to come back and find the real one, feel free to do so, but I won't delete your past log. You can do that yourself if you want to be legitimate. But because it's about the location, it's not about the physical container. As opposed to, say, I had a gadget cache and the whole experience was about that gadget and the container, and somebody found something that wasn't the gadget cache, then I would want them to have the experience of the gadget cache. And if they sign something that's a log sheet that's not the proper one, again, same sort of thing. I would probably send a message saying, hey, you didn't find the gadget cache. I think you'd really enjoy it. You should go back and find the gadget cache at some point if you can. But I've got to delete your find log. It's really just a matter of being respectable and friendly to people. A lot of cache owners and cachers can be really uptight about things. And, if something happens, like the first time, you want it correct. And a lot of people think like if that first time there's something wrong with it, then it puts everybody through jumping through a whole bunch of other loops that are unnecessary, and they get worked up. And it's like, that's my log. Why'd you so, you want to try to accommodate that to a degree, but as a cache owner, you do have to maintain the integrity of your listing. Personally, my strongest inclination is to make sure that the log history is accurate. So if somebody logs a find on a cache that they didn't actually find, then that's not accurate, because anybody who goes to that listing will see the find log, think it's findable when it's not. So yeah, and reviewers and Groundspeak are cracking down a lot more on cache owners who don't maintain the integrity of their listing. So highly recommend, if you're a cache owner, be reasonable, but try to keep your log history accurate to what the cache state is. That's what I would say. So whether you delete logs or ask people to manage their own logs, or post warnings and give time, if you're ever unsure, talk to a local reviewer, let them know. That's the best way to go about it. Be on a good side and just be friendly and respectable. Green words. Would you rather cache alone or with friends? There are great benefits to both. Personally, I think caching alone, you've got the freedom, you've got spontaneity, you can go and do anything you want. You can be aimless, just grab from cache to cache and not have to worry about schedules, what anybody else is doing. Whereas if you're going with friends, you can spend some quality time planning trips and organizing your target caches and your routes and all that stuff. You have to deal with combining your schedules to make sure everything works for everybody. It's a vastly different experience. They provide more. They provide fun in different ways. So it really depends on what kind of experience I'm looking for. If it's during the week, I'm most likely be going alone, because it can be tedious to say, hey, do you want to go caching, and then try to work in a time when, if you're just going alone, you can just hop out and go, especially with first to finds. Okay, next up, Force Awakens. What do you do for fun when or if you need a break from work and geocaching? Well, this is what I was doing just before I came and rushed over here for the live stream. Since 2015, I've been training in martial arts. So I've taken up Kung Fu as a nightly evening training regimen, which has helped with being healthy and active and it's built a lot of confidence, being around people, helping people, even taking on like a mentor slash leadership type of role. It's been 4 years now, so I'm blue sash. So if you think about, you can think about karate with different belt stripes and stuff. Kung Fu is Chinese, so they use sashes and similar coloring. But when you start out, it'd be red to yellow to orange to green, blue, brown, and then black. So I'm kind of in that mid advanced or early advanced range. So I've been helping with leading some classes and taking the classes myself, and still always learning new stuff. But it's been huge, a big benefit for physical health and exercise, and a social aspect. The community of the school is just phenomenal. You make tons of friends, and you also build in that level of respect for like a hierarchy. People who are above you, whether it's older than you as an elder, or who are more knowledgeable than you as a higher rank. Sometimes you could have a black sash who is half your age teaching the class. So it seems kind of backwards, but it's really cool how that works out, because it kind of, especially for younger kids, learning how to respond to authority, because it has to exist if you're going to be teaching. So I find that a huge benefit. So, I mean, if you've got any martial arts around you, whether it's karate, kung fu, or brain fart, that's not a martial art. Check them out, because depending on the cost, I mean, it can be very worthwhile. Even if you do 1 or 2 classes a week, it's another thing that helps you. I mean, so there's one thing that I've loved saying about the martial arts. When I first started, within the first year, I love tree climbs, and I went to do a tree climb, and I looked at it, I'm thinking, oh, that's kind of risky. I don't know if I could do that. Okay, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. So I got up on the first branch, or whatever branch it was, and there was this one step where it was a bit of like you're on a limb, had to do a bit of a jump and a pull up to get to it. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm looking down, and this could be risky. But I jumped and I climbed up and I got up. I'm like, what? That was easy. Like, I didn't expect it to be so easy. It helps. So, I mean, if you do martial arts, you're going to start training your body to do things you didn't think you'd get it to do before. And it's just awesome. So that pretty much is what I do for spare time outside of work and geocaching and video editing. Lots and lots of stuff to do. What else is there? Yeah. Yeah. And if I'm not doing martial arts and geocaching and work and video editing, then I'm probably plopping on the couch and watching Netflix. So next, from Jen Abel, what's your longest caching streak? That is an easy question. That will be 366 days, consecutive unique days, from March 1st, 2011 to February 29th, 2012. And that was the Ironman challenge, where I did not cache the day before and I did not cache the day after, because I knew that if I didn't have an end date, it would just be going on and on. I can't stop now. I've got this huge streak. I've got to cache the next day. I don't want to stop. So I said 366, and that's it. It's a good challenge, good goal to accomplish. And that was also part of the basis for the creation of this video channel, because that happened during the instance of my mother having ALS, and her condition going slowly downhill over the year was my inspiration to push through and complete that challenge to the end of my year. And it just so happened that they both ended within days of each other. My mother's life came to a close 4 days after I completed. After. Oh my gosh. After I completed the challenge. And yeah, that was essentially life-changing in the whole creation of this channel. And that was 5 years before I started the channel. Wow. Geocacher Ken, where did you get the cool shades, and how can I get my hands on a pair? I love to say that they're custom tailor made, but they're not. Walmart. I mean, aviators, you can pretty much get them almost anywhere, right? So I would say, yeah, just find aviators and wear them. They're pretty slick, pretty cool, adjustable. Get ones that don't keep breaking, because I think I've broken. That's the other thing. Go cheap, and then if you ever break your arm or something, and that screw or whatever comes out, then just grab a couple new ones. I like them. They're big. They cover. They're good for against sun. So yeah. Walmart, corner store, gas station. I don't know, wherever. But you can't have these ones. Will you be traveling, Geocacher says, to Manitoba and North Dakota for some geocaching in the next 12 months? Well, there is 2020, some stuff happening in Seattle and some stuff happening in BC. I don't know. It depends if we do a road trip across Canada or across the U.S., maybe, to Geo Woodstock in 2020 in BC and Abbotsford. Or maybe to Seattle, or maybe both, or maybe flying and drive. I don't know, but it's possible. I would love to be able to drive to Manitoba and get some caching around there in North Dakota. It's a big drive though, and I've done so many trips this year that it probably will not be this year, and probably won't be next year, because that big trip is going to be huge. Maybe the following year. I don't know. There's no plans, but not within 12 months. And so on that note, those are the questions that I received. 9:39. Wow, that's gone 40 minutes over what I expected. So I want to quickly get to the stats of people who have entered the prize draws, the giveaways, and how many people. So people who have commented on that 1K subscriber, live video at Temagami, not Timagami, Temagami Tower. We had 24 people comment with their highest altitude cache that they found, and so that's pretty cool. So I got the list here, and where do we go? So comments here. Let me get this baggie out. Got to use the right bag for this, right? I've used this bag. I love this bag. This is draw number 2. This is the awesome bag, cloth drawstring. I've used this bag for pulling names for draws before. I just love this thing. Oh, I love it so much. Okay, so 24 names. You're in here if you commented on that video with, not just commented, but with your highest altitude. So in they go. I'm not going to drop names. If you commented during this live stream, it's probably too late, but we got almost where are the GPS points. Name I'm pulling out is one single sheet. We have Manuel Mix. However, that's, or Mikey. Mikey, I think, is his the name that he's using. That is, you are the winner of the Cache's Corner Store t-shirt for Cache the Line. That one, thanks to Brian from Cache's Corner Store, is pretty sweet. I personally like the shaded sunset one, but we will get you in touch with him so you can organize getting that. And I will also make sure that I've got your mailing address, because I want to send you some stuff too, because swag and collecting. And as a thank you for subscribing, for being a watcher, all of you, you're just awesome. I mean, 1,000 subscribers. In last year, just a week before, was 500 subscribers, and it's been 2 years since the channel started. I don't think we're going to double to 2,000 for next year, but maybe. All right, next up for prize draw number 2, we have, how many? There were 20 people sent in questions. Some people sent in multiple questions, but I only counted you once. And so got all these names going in the bag. Who's it going to be? 20 out of 20 people. Those are some good questions too. I like them. The puzzling ones are tough. Okay, what do we got? We got one sheet. That's for this bag. Whoever's name comes out is getting this, not this bag, but a bag like this. Another one of this, not this bag. This is my bag, and it's kind of worn around the top, but it's still strong. I love it. And the name is, oh, look at that. It is GeoScouter117. He is also a geo vlogger, and he has a channel, and you are the winner. Woohoo, Dave. Not Dave. You are the winner of this bag. And I'm going to try to find a way to get some of these because I would love to have extras to be able to give away, or if you'd like to buy it and help support the channel, that would be a great opportunity, a great way. So thank you, GeoScouter117, also for your subscribing and watching, and Manuel Mix. Also, thank you to all the patrons who support Cache the Line. You guys you help fund, but you being there and believing in the stuff that I create and helping inspire me to create is a huge factor. And that's what I love about Patreon because it helps us all connect together. And so thank you guys. If you want to join and help support Cache the Line, then go to patreon.com/cache the line. There's a whole bunch of tiers, anywhere from $1 a month up to, if you want to invest, there's but $3, $5, $10 a month. That's like the average that people tend to support with, depending on what you like and how much you believe and how much you want to help me to actually create these videos, because it takes time and all this travel costs so much. So thank you to Patreon patrons who already support, and to all of the subscribers who've helped make 1,000 subscribers, that milestone accomplished, whatever I'm saying. And thank you for coming along and watching this. The questions were great. I hope maybe you learned something, maybe not. Maybe there'll be another one at 10,000. Let's get to 10,000 subscribers and find out what happens. I don't know. Have a cookie. Cheers to you. And a Dr. Pepper. And get off the couch. Get off the computer. And be like Moto Joe and go find a geocache. Or just happy caching and excellent adventuring. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes. Go find a cache. Get out caching. And 9:45, get a US geocaching hour on Twitter and see what they're chatting about, because that's community, people. Community is what it's all about. Thank you for watching. Okay, let's quickly check over the comments just in case there's something here. I'll probably respond later on, but is there something else to put on here? Hey, do you see webcams ever coming back for a short period of time or as a reward? I want them to. I would love them to. It doesn't sound like they will. That's a question from Shelly Raymond in chat. What do we got? Anything else? Getting late. Who's your hunter? Say hi. Good night. Good night. Who's your cache hunters? More geo vloggers. Woohoo. Coolest bit of swag. Oh, there's a whole bunch of questions here. Maybe I'll answer some in chat or in comments on the video. I'll probably do that. I'll be uploading this video live streamed onto YouTube as well, just in case people don't have Facebook and couldn't watch, so be able to see the questions and maybe some others over on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed, go to YouTube, search for Cache the Line, or just go to cachetheline.net and subscribe, please. And happy caching and excellent adventuring. See you guys later.